Hi, I made a video a couple of months ago. It was like early January, I think, and I was basically throwing my ring into the hat in terms of coming to some judgment or conclusion as to whether Elvis was a racist. And I'm very disappointed because it was 16 minutes. I collected all these photos and clips that I played. It was like a 16-minute video. I had all this evidence, and then when I posted it, YouTube restricted it because they said there was a video that was or material that was copyrighted restricted, so they restricted access to the video, and they won't tell me which clip it was, so I don't know how to excise it. I don't know what to do to remove it. So anyhow, so I thought I'd just make in a brief video, just make the arguments without the evidence, to show and demonstrate my points. But so supposedly, when you dig into this claim that Elvis was a racist, um, what you hear is like someone said that 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 someone said back in like the mid 50s, before he became really famous, that someone heard him say that backstage or something that, what was it, the only thing black people are good for is shining my shoe, and there's no evidence at all that he said this. And of course the man's entire life negates any notion that he could have been a racist. But just for the haters, I thought I'd like walk through the evidence, right? Um, so the first thing I want to mention is in the what was it, the early 60s. Um, he hired a black lady who lived in Memphis named Mary Jenkins to be his cook. And she's been interviewed, right? And she said that he said, you have a job for as long as you want it. So she cooked with for him for like, I don't know, was it 12 years, 17 years? It was something a real long time till he died. And then I think she stayed for a number of years after he died because his aunt. Yeah, I think his aunt. Vernon lived for 2 more years. His dad lived for 2 more years, and then his aunt. So anyhow, so so he hired a black woman to cook. She was there like every day at Graceland, and she even wrote a cookbook about the foods that she cooked for him, including the fried banana sandwich. Um, and then he bought her a house. So there's actually video on YouTube of her showing the house that Elvis bought for her. He picked it out. She liked it, and he bought it for her. Linda Thompson, who was his girlfriend for about 5 years in the 70s until about a year before he died, um, she said on an interview with Larry King that Elvis owned albums that had recordings of Martin Luther King's speeches, and that they used to listen to them over and over and over again. They just loved it. And of course, they'd stay up all night. So they happened to be talking about like things they did at night, you know, because they stayed up all night, and that was one of the things she mentioned. And when she brought that up, um, Larry said, well, the Colonel Tom Parker, told him that Elvis used to donate money to Martin Luther King in his organization. So Larry said, so people don't know this, but Elvis was a civil rights person. Um, then uh, After Elvis finished making movies, he in 1968 he recorded that 68 comeback special, which aired in December of 68. It was a mega smash hit. So it was clear that he had an opportunity to go back to doing live performances and recording. Um, and the next summer he played for the first time in Vegas. That was like a test, and that was a big hit. So it was clear that he was going to be doing well. So he hired the Sweet Inspirations, which was a black female gospel group with Cissy Houston, who was Whitney Houston's mom, as the leader of the group. And they were with him for till he died, for 6, 7 years till he died in 77. So I find it hard to believe a racist would hire, a group of black women to spend 160 days out of the year with him on his tours, and then the stints he did at Vegas, uh, if he was a racist, right? So And then in interviews, Sister Houston said she said the pay was fantastic. They loved him. He loved them. They treated him super well. And then Myrna Smith, one of the other women in the group, said that in one interview, she said they almost had a relationship. They were on the cusp of having a relationship, and they decided not to because they had to work together and didn't want to ruin their friendship and all that. And she also said that she felt like a princess around him. He treated me like a princess. Um, and the other thing is one of the Sweet Inspirations also tell the story about how when they first began touring with him, like in 1970, I think, like when they played the Houston Astrodome, um, they mentioned like there was a hotel or something of their hotels that said that they didn't want black people, unbelievably, and he said, well, we're not going to stay here. It's, sorry. So there's that. Um, oh, Meredith Smith also mentioned that um, during that time, maybe in the 80s, Ebony magazine spent years trying to do research to see whether there was any truth to this claim that he was a racist. And they concluded in the end after this, and they actually interviewed the Sweet Inspirations. That's why she mentioned it. They flew them in and interviewed them. And she said that in the end, they concluded they did an article and said he wasn't, that there's no evidence that he was. Um, what else? Oh, so then in 1968, he made a film in the spring called Live a Little, Love a Little. And he had a drop dead gorgeous co-star, Celeste Yarnell. And if you've seen the film, I've never seen her look better. Like she's like at her peak, I think, in that film. And um, she she said during the filming, that's when Martin Luther King was assassinated, of course, in Memphis, Elvis's hometown. And she said that she and Elvis watched the funeral in his trailer on the set, and that he was crying. Um, After he finished that film, uh, in June of '68, he went to L.A., Hollywood, and that's when they started recording that comeback special, '68 comeback special. And they wanted to come up with a show-stopping final number, and they didn't know what they were going to do, so they had a staff songwriter working on the show. And one night they asked him to go home and write a song, right? And he was thinking about he knew that Elvis was so moved by MLK's death, and he wrote a song based on his "I Have a Dream" speech, and the song was called "If I Can Dream," and it actually draws quotes lines from the song, from the speech. Um, and then when Elvis recorded the song, some of I think it was the backup singers, um, or some of the like studio musicians said that they were crying, and they said they had never seen him sing with such passion and feeling. Um, Another point with the '68 comeback special, um, Bill Ballou was the costume designer, and Bill Ballou. So they like the TV show hired Bill Ballou to do Elvis's costumes, and there were a lot of costumes on that show. I mean, it was all these different bits and pieces and segments, and he wore something different in every one. It was unbelievable. So Bill got to know him really well. He designed a lot of clothing for that show for Elvis, and then Elvis liked his design so much that Bill ended up designing his costumes and his personal wardrobe until he died. But Bill said, for the "If I Can Dream" song, Elvis wore this beautiful white suit, and Bill wanted to find a scarf for him to wear. So he was at some boutique and he saw this. He said it was a blood red scarf, and he bought it because it symbolized all of the death and destruction that he said was troubling both him and Elvis around that time. So you had MLK being shot in April, then Bobby Kennedy being shot in June, just after they started filming the comeback special. And then both Bill and Elvis were veterans, and they were upset about the body counts from Vietnam, and they used to talk about that. So but Bill said he bought that scarf, and he mentioned how he knew Elvis felt about MLK and his assassination. Um, Elvis was personal friends with Muhammad Ali, and there's a clip on YouTube from the Mike Douglas show, and I think Ali appeared on that show a bunch of times. But there's one particular clip where Mike Douglas says that he was having dinner with Ali, and if there was a phone call, and it was Elvis, and he put Ali gave Mike Douglas the phone so he could talk to Elvis, and he mentioned Mike Douglas mentions that Elvis spent 2 weeks visiting Ali at his training camp for boxing, and and then of course uh, Elvis had a boxer's robe made for Ali that was based upon his stage jumpsuits with all the jewels and stuff. And there are photos of him like presenting it to Ali and stuff. And then there's actually photos of I think Ali wearing it, before and after a fight. But Ali said he loved him. There are a lot of videos where Ali talks about Elvis. He said he great best guy in the world. Absolutely loved him. The the other the other thing I want to mention is this story came out a few years ago, and I had never heard it before. I think it just came out, but right for many years, I think it was like Christmas Eve. Elvis used to go to the jail in Memphis, and I'm not clear if it was like a short-term jail or like a prison. I'm not clear, but I think they used the word jail. And he used to meet with every single prisoner, and he would um, ask them if there was anything that he could do for them, and he'd write it down, like what they needed, like. I don't know what it was, if it was, he said like your family or anything like that. And I don't know if it could have been like money to fund a lawyer. I don't know what he would do, but he would do his best. He'd write down what each person needed, and then do his best after that to help them out. And my point is that I'm assuming that some of those people were black, right? And so the story isn't that he helped the white prisoners, you know, and you'd think if he was a racist, he wouldn't help the black prisoners, right? So and then the last point is that there are countless photos of Elvis with black, uh, musical performers or actors, um, and many video clips from interviews with black performers who just absolutely love the guy. They say everyone thought he was like their best friend, like BB King, Little Richard. There's a photo of him. He met Mahalia Jackson, on and on and on. Um, so maybe you know, maybe someone, like they said, someone said that someone said in 1954. Maybe he said that. I really doubt it. But if he did, clearly the way he lived his life and befriended black people, and the way he felt about them and they felt about him, uh, it negates whatever could possibly kind of sort of might have been said. So